backwards. You're on the Vine Words team. How did that happen?
Diane and I were friends on Facebook, and she said some of my posts were humorous and well written, so she contacted me to ask me if I would write some stuff for Vine Words.
Humor?
And I did. And then the book came along, and she asked me to be a part of that, and I jumped at that chance. Sure.
Well, is humor the centerpiece of your writing, or did you just catch that one?
I never thought it was funny, but I guess in writing, I can be humorous.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't think it was very funny, but some of the stuff was funny when I wrote it.
Okay. And how long ago was that when you and Sandra intersected for Vine Words?
Gosh, maybe a little over a year now.
About a year. Okay. So you're a veteran Vine worder, you could say. But
Yeah.
but when she saw your writings, now where did she see that? Did she see an article you'd written, a book, or what did she see?
These were just posts on Facebook.
Really?
I had this really humorous spider story. She still brings it up. So she got it from my post on Facebook.
You don't like spiders, do you?
No. No. One hitched a ride on my car, and I kind of caught his legs in the window.
Oh, okay.
So it was just funny from there.
I don't see many spiders, but when I do, it doesn't end well for the spider.
If they're outside, it's better for them.
Yeah,
Not in my house.
Yeah, if they stay outside, I can deal with it a lot better. But fortunately, it doesn't happen much, in spite of the fact that I'm in Florida, and bugs and things like that are part of the landscape around here. And but your writing is Christ-centered, kingdom-centered, but you're not a product of growing up in the church.
Not at all.
What happened?
My parents did not raise us with God, with church, anything. Never even knew anything about God. But there was a neighbor across the street, and she invited the kids from the neighborhood into her home, and she called it missionettes. And she would teach us about God and the Bible, and we would do crafts and sing songs. So anything I got for God was from there. But the one thing, I grew up in an abusive home, not a lot of love, not a lot of encouragement, nurturing, any of that. But when I went there was just like this peace, because no one was allowed to be mean to anybody else. And I wondered for years, what was the draw to get me to go there? And it was because she said that Jesus loved me. And for a kid who didn't have that, it was just this huge magnet that drew me to want to go, because here she tells me this man, Jesus, loved me in spite of what everybody else told me I was.
How old are you when you were going through that?
Well, you could say it was from birth, because my dad did try to force my mom to miscarry me. He knew what he was doing. He didn't want me, and did horrific things to try to get her miscarried. God wasn't letting that happen.
How did you find out about that?
My mom told me. She told me about the things that he did. So he didn't treat me well from day one. There was no love, none, zero. He was abusive, from as far back as I can remember.
Did you have a good relationship with your mom?
Yes. Well, she was married at 16. By the time she had me, she was 19. Very scared of him. Didn't know what to do. Back in those days, women weren't encouraged to leave. She stayed around, because she had no place to go.
All right.
But
but the two of you talked as you became old enough to kind of understand. She shared with you that, well, of course you were a part of it, but you all talked.
my question to her was why? Why was he so hateful towards me? And that's when all that came up.
Is your father still living?
No.
Okay. Did things get better? Well, let's see. So you grew up in a home. You had an abusive father, a mother who was really a victim of it. And back in those days, women did not protect themselves. They just put up with it or blame themselves. Do you think your mother blamed herself?
Sometimes, she knew she should have gotten away.
Mm-hmm.
But even when the police were called out to our house, they encouraged her to stay because divorced women were frowned upon.
Right.
She had 2 children at that time to take care of, and she didn't know what to do.
So how often did the police come around?
I remember 3 major times. There were, let's see, it drove her to have sometimes like nervous breakdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So she would be called either an ambulance or the police for that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time when my dad held a shotgun to her head. And after she got away from that, that's when she called the police. But they still talked her into staying.
They still, wow. And now your neighbor who invited you to missionettes, as you call it, so that kind of sounds like it was all girls.
No, well, it was basically run by Mrs. Adams. Mr. Adams was there once in a while, but the neighborhood kids were boys and girls.
Oh, it's co-ed. Okay.
Yeah.
Did your mom know you were visiting for that reason?
Yes, she knew.
She
My mom
okay
was
with that?
Pardon me?
Was she okay with that?
Oh, anything to get me away from out of the house, she was fine with, as long as it was safe, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was my lifeline because she protected me from my dad. So when he was on me, she would get in the middle and get him to back down. But she also needed a lot of time a lot of opportunities to get away for herself. So he did most of his damage when she wasn't around.
Oh. Was there drugs, alcohol? Was there what was at the root of this?
I have a theory, and it's only a theory because I won't know the truth since he's not here anymore. He was abused by his parents and just followed suit, basically. So he was treated poorly. His sister was more highly favored.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory is that his firstborn was going to be treated favorably, and the second one was not, which was me. I don't know if that makes sense, but
well, it doesn't make sense a man would do that. I mean, it at all, ever, and it boils my blood to think that things like this ever happened. Did any of were your neighbors, your associates, your friends, were they aware of the hell that was going on inside this house?
I think a lot of people were.
And nobody did anything.
A lot more than they let on. Many people knew. Mrs. Adams described 30 years after I left that neighborhood. It was probably 10 years ago. I went to see her to say thank you for what she did for me. And she says, I just remember you crying all the time.
Wow. At some point, things got better. What happened?
My parents divorced at 18. Well, because of Mrs. Adams, the one thing that I took away from being with her was A, I knew who Jesus was, and B, prayer. So ever since I found out about prayer and praying, and God hears our prayers and he helps us and all that, it's the one consistent thing I can say I did throughout my whole childhood. the only probably consistent thing was prayer. And it may not have been long or eloquent or anything, but I know that God heard me because he got me through it. Years later, I found out all the times that things were going on, he was right there, helping me through it, helping me get by. I wasn't killed. I wasn't injured. It had to have been God. There's no other way I would have survived some of the stuff.
So even at a young age, you were through prayer, however elementary, however basic, you found some comfort, some protection in prayer, but somewhere along the line that deepened, because today you're writing devotional books, you're on the Vine Words team, so somewhere things got deeper with God.
Okay, so I finally went for counseling for myself, and I received that through an unbeknownst Christian counselor. Then I realized that what had happened was not my fault. But then I had an encounter with God, turned everything around, and that I was a dog trainer / groomer. I went to work with animals my whole life. And then God shut those doors, and he met me where I was and said, you need to write. I had no idea to go that route, but he did. And my very first encounter, I got published.
About how old were you when you just kind of got an inspiration from within or from above? How old were you at the time?
31.
31.
31.
Okay. Well, you're only 32 now, right? You're
That's it.
Oh, by the way, thank you for making accommodations. Folks, you don't know, you can't see, but Sandra, you've just had some shoulder surgery. And we had actually set up, I think, at another time, but you were in so much pain. How's that recovering?
Okay, here's another God moment. After the surgery, no pain pills, no pain whatsoever.
Really? No way.
No.
I had a tooth taken out, and I lived on hydrocodone for a week.
Well, I had my right shoulder done 11 years ago, and I never took a pain pill.
Wow.
And so I prayed for the same, and no pain when I came out. And once the pain blocker wore off, no pain after that. Never took a pain pill until I moved it the wrong way. Ooh. And caused it to, I hope I didn't injure it. I don't think so, but it was a lot more painful. So for that, I took it. But
okay, I was beginning to wonder if the pain was just an excuse to get out of this interview. No, it was real.
It was. Yeah.
So what do you do now, and where are things going in your journey over the next few years?
Well, when I had the encounter with God, it's when he told me to write. And I knew exactly what to write about. He even showed me a cover for a book. And I got right on it, and I was writing and writing. And through every part of that, he showed me how he was there for every aspect of the hurting and the attacks and whatnot, and how he was there. There was an incident with some horses, and it's only by one of God's angels that I could get back up into a saddle on a galloping horse, a runaway, per se. And so he showed me everything that I was supposed to put in there, how he was there with me and got me through it. It was just amazing. There are no words to describe.
So you had this encounter with God, but you're not a student. You're not a product of some academic process by which you learned to write. Did somebody mentor you? Did somebody tutor you? Did somebody help you, or were you just picked this up and started running?
Just picked it up and started running. Now, granted, my first draft, which I still have, is very, very bad. But Then I found somebody, it was probably 3 months after this incident, that I met somebody who went to this writers group which is the next town over from mine. So I called for some information and they sent it to me, and I ended up going there for quite a few years. That's how I met people to do Heaven Calling and Take My Heart, Oh God books. So it has just spiraled from there. I walked in and a girl asked me my story, and she says, write it down and send it to me. It got published in one of their magazines. So it's all God.
Is it on your radar to publish a book by yourself? I think your works are contributing to other works at this point.
So far.
So far. Is it on your radar to maybe publish your own book someday?
Well, I did do the draft, like
Okay.
he told me. I believe that first draft was for my closure, to put to bring me to forgiveness, actually, to be able to forgive my dad for what he did. And it was difficult, no doubt about it, but I do forgive him. And now I need to write that book for somebody else, to encourage them and show them and tell them that God is there. Just seek him, and he will guide your way. He will show you the path. He will help you heal and bring you to fullness of who you are in him, and to be able to forgive. It is possible to forgive the unforgivable.
Is your mother still living?
Yes.
You talk to her much?
Funny, well, not funny, interesting thing about that. My mom was my lifeline when I was a kid. And then when there was a point where I did want to commit suicide, I wanted to just end it. I couldn't take it anymore. And God spoke to my heart. I'm on the floor, fetal position, ready to take a bunch of pills. And he comes to my heart and he tells me, first thing he said, you wanted heaven. And second thing, your mom needs you. So as a 14-year-old, I thought, what can I do? I can't physically protect her from my dad. I can't really vocally protect her from my dad. I didn't understand but maybe it was just my love. Maybe she just needed my love to get her through it. But right now she's in a nursing home, bedridden, with somebody needing to take care of her. So back then it was for now.
Wow. Well, in a strange kind of way, she was there for you.
Yeah.
All those years, and now the roles have changed and reversed.
Yeah.
And it's hard. I have some familiarity, not much, but some familiarity. But you do what you got to do. And you wonder sometimes, I can't do that. But you can.
She's made it difficult for me to want to walk away from this. But I know it's right before God. Yeah. So I'm not going to abandon her or what I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay. Well, Sandra, I know that. No, actually, I don't know, but I can only imagine how hard it must be emotionally to share some of the things that you've shared with us tonight. And I just want to thank you because hopefully all that you went through was not in vain. Hopefully, someone that sees this now, or it may be 5 years in the future, they're on YouTube and searching around. And who knows, they may find this and find comfort, find peace, and find a way out. And we're just glad to have you on board with Vine Words, and we appreciate you making the painful journey back into that dark past and bringing it up and sharing it with us tonight. We really appreciate you, sister.
Thank you for having me.
Folks, what a powerful story. There you see the view of the Eagle's Nest broadcast facilities from our orbiting cameras high atop our studio. Folks, what a powerful story, and I hope that you are not going through what Sandra has gone through, but if you are, I hope you know that you're not alone, and she has made it through God's help. Folks, before I leave, I'd like to challenge you by asking you two questions. You don't need to answer me, but I hope you'll certainly answer yourself. First, what is the boldest thing that you've ever done for Jesus Christ? And secondly, when was that? Folks, you may not have had the experiences that Sandra has had, but whatever you're going through, boldness will be required. I hope that none of us will ever be satisfied with our answers to either of those two questions. PJNet.TV, a special edition, and we have a guest.